It's your lucky day, another graph physics video presentation. Okay, yeah, the whole thing's a joke, really. It's just so pathetic. Ask a scientist a simple question, get a bullshit answer, right? I mean, just the same old crapola. So Baldy Catz, who, like I said, he pretends to be, I'm a decent guy with integrity. I don't know. Maybe not so much. Because when you push it, it's all bullshit. It's all, whatever, fear-induced cow methane. You can smell it in the air already. I mean, the shit's coming, right? I mean, you're getting the gas first, and then you'll get the real deal. Ask a simple, how much would I have to pay you per hour for the opportunity to publicly interrogate the credibility of your physics truth? Yeah, I want to interrogate your physics. I mean, I'd like to defend mine, but you have to listen to mine first and understand it before you get interrogated. So, yeah, that takes more time. So you're supposed to already know your physics. So me, pointing out how you don't know something rational would be, in my opinion, valuable. Yeah, it'd be a learning experience for at least one of us. Anyway, so he says $600, stupid number. If it's not too difficult question, what other work would you get $600 an hour for? Not a simple enough question. Maybe it's too difficult to defend the standard woo, so I'm kind of, putting down the gauntlet, say, come on, you can give me a better number than that to defend your beautiful religion, can't you? I mean, you're supposed to know what God is God, and, that the space is bent and all that crap. Can't you defend it? Well, anyway. So then he says, okay, 700. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, I love that. Make me an offer. Well, no, not really. You really shouldn't have to do that. You go to the car dealer and say, hey, make me an offer for the car. No, it goes the other way around. You make an offer, and I say, well, nah, buy it or I'm not going to buy it. You try first. Give me a real number. Anyway. Well, I really would like to fairly compensate you for your time. Yeah, I really sincerely wish to be fair. That's right. I want whatever fairness is. Let the public decide what fairness is. I don't care who decides, but let's have some sort of agreement that fair would be really nice. So you can't even say that, and people turn that into garbage. But don't want to be much poorer to do it. Yeah, that's right. I don't want to pay any more than I have to. Okay, so, yeah, that's right. Maybe I'll look like I'm going to walk out of the showroom, just to see if I can get you to come down a little bit. All right. Would also be interested in how much you would charge for the video to be posted on your channel. Yeah, it'd be nice if you had the guts to actually, put it on your channel, your humiliation. What I predict will be your humiliation. It won't be that dramatic because it's in the name of the truth. Yeah. I'm willing to pay 3 digits for that. Don't be bloody daft. I don't charge money for my time. And he's apparently meant that. Crying, laughing, he meant it so much. Yet whatever he does do for his time, which he didn't articulate there, I apparently can't meet the standard by either asking politely or offering money politely. Those two things haven't worked. Okay. Like wave particle duality, I really don't understand this reply. Are you in superposition of not interested in doing it for free, which he seems pretty much, and also not willing to do it for money? Yes, it seems exactly what he's in that superposition, and I might as well just, it's blowing in the methane of the great science defenders. All right, anyway. So I say, I would like to discuss the foundational... Oh, okay, it says, I will not charge for my time. What is the specific question you want to discuss? Well, I want to discuss the foundations of physics, as I stated. You have a lot of statements you make. There's bent space, there's quantum mechanics, which is, all kinds of weird stuff. Mostly it has to do with the fact that it's waves. And so I want to discuss waves and bent space. Primarily. I would like to discuss foundational conclusions of quantum mechanics, wave interference and such, two-slit, gravitational lensing, etc. I would argue the claims are extraordinary and the real evidence is less than ordinary. That's right. So I'd just like to ask you about what you think the evidence is and what you think they should be teaching and what they are teaching and whether there's any reason for them to teach what they're teaching. And so I made a video just to him. Oh, and yes, it was an hour long, but I went through all the subjects so he could have picked one. I haven't watched the video, given that it's an hour long. Oh, physics video that's an hour long. How outrageous. But are you saying you have experimental evidence that contradicts the mainstream? I'm saying the mainstream doesn't have any evidence. Why do I have to counteract evidence they don't have? I mean, do you really have evidence that space is bent? You think you really have an experiment that proves this is being caused by a one-dimensional bending of 3 dimensions? No, I don't think you have evidence that there's, number one, that we're in a one-dimensional universe, or 2. I don't think you have any evidence that space is a something, and experimental evidence, and I don't think you have any experimental evidence saying that that something is bent. Boy, amazing. All right, show more replies. So this is where things start to go foul because, look, I'm physics novice. Nice that you participate, but I can't say it was the wrong thing to do. But yeah, this conversation went from bad to just plain. It went from just the threatening farts to the actual bullshit. I haven't watched the video. Okay, no, here we go. I put a timestamp under his video. So, nice thing to do. I mean, it's really great. I mean, I love when people do this kind of stuff. I mean, this timestamp stuff is excellent. So, he has all the little subjects here with a time code. Very nice. Thank you. I really do appreciate that kind of thing. It's a definite added value. Thank you. I mean, if I had the time, I'd do all this crap. All right. So then Raging S, whatever that is, he calls himself a raging something. Raging shit, I imagine. Reminds me of Ken Wheeler's verbal diarrhea. So what word in there was a diarrhea word? There's no hyperborealoids, there's no coaxial cables, there's no sacred geometry. I mean, these are just such cheap, stupid, ignorant, dumbass kind of retorts. It's like he doesn't want to pay attention at all. He's walking into court and he sees, hey, that defense lawyer's a chick. I'll make fun of her dress and win. I mean, it's so pathetic. And these are the defenders of the truth. These are the science lovers, the science defenders. This is the crap they spew. Gish Gallop, arguments from incredulity. Well, I think that's a pretty good argument, frankly. Okay, that, you're stating something rather extraordinary and you have less than ordinary evidence. Somebody should point that out. No apparent concern for understanding of math. Well, exactly where did I say the math doesn't matter? I was pointing out how your math is completely inconsistently applied. Huygens creates 2 waves in the single slit. Huygens creates 2 waves in the double slit. I'd say that is kind of an incredibly silly thing to sit there and defend. You want to defend that as a principle? Go ahead and try to defend it as a principle. But I haven't seen anybody do it successfully yet, or rationally, or reasonably. All they can do is throw little fucking insults. Little ad hominem make fun insults. That's all you people have. Okay? You're so fucking lame. Tenem as a replacement for clarity, etc. Whatever. Again, I made it as clear as possible. I stand by the video. I don't think there's anything in the video you can point out was wrong or stupid or can't be demonstrated as being grounded in a reasonable interpretation of the evidence. But instead, you do this because you're a shit. You're a crap as a human being, Raging S. Wow, thanks. Okay, so he thanks him for the time codes. Can I just ask a question, please? So, I mean, fine. You want to have the conversation in text instead. So in 2-sentence kind of banter, we'll do this physics conversation. That's the best opportunity you'll give me to interrogate your physics, is I have to do it in a bunch of text. Oh, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. First thing I clicked on was the gravity section. Well, that wasn't, there's no gravity section in the video, so I really don't understand exactly how you did that. I sent you a video. You complained that it's 1 hour long, and then you went looking at other videos or something. Anyway, the first thing, oh, okay, that was the time code. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, so he clicked on the gravity time code. What if it is photons that do not have a frequency? So that part he doesn't understand. What does that mean? Well, it means that it's quanta, right? Clumps. But the clumps aren't at a frequency, which means it doesn't get registered. It doesn't get received. So if your radio station antenna can't produce a consistent signal, you know, it just jumps from 10 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz and just keeps changing every lump, then the signal won't be received by any radio as a signal. But it's still there. Okay, that's what it means. Well, anyway, okay, so he doesn't know what it means. Sorry, I have just fixed the timestamp, shifting it a bit. Part missing was thinking about photons got me to gravity. Yes, so you missed the opening statement pointing out how, there is continuity. Okay, that's great, but what do you think it means when he talks about photons with no frequency? So again, you know, you can't say it any clearer in the video. You can't point it out, but I'll do this one more time. This is really important, and, you know, so I'll time code him to this moment and say, what do you think a photon is? So again, they draw a photon as this, okay? So let's, you know, get real. This is their idea of a photon. Now, he's never thought about the idea that, is this a photon? Or is this a photon? You know, or is this a photon? He's never thought of it even as a wave. It's still in quantizable clumps. He's never thought of it that way. He's never thought about how much of it you need. Do I just need one thing? Beep, beep. There, I have a photon, right? Two frequencies. You know, just so there's a difference between one and another. So there's a time interval between two things, two events. So that's the minimum. You have to have that, right? He would have to agree. Well, is that the same exact photon as the 3 beeps or the 6 beeps? I mean, he's never even thought about it, obviously. I mean, that's how vacuous their physics is. That's how unconceptual they've ever been. That they'd never even thought about this idea that whatever this stupid thing is, this field vibrations in 2 dimensions crapola, that it has clumps in it. They've never even thought about it. Okay, so like you have something like the microwave background radiation, right? Now, obviously, it's coming in signals that our radio receivers can receive. So it clumps, you know, it waves, and then it waves, and then it waves. And so there has to be at least like 3 or 4 of these things for our radio receivers to say, there's a frequency, a consistent time interval over a necessary period of time. It has to do the same thing for an amount of time or we can't detect it. Well, what if the cosmic background radiation also has some that are only 2? Or what if it has some that are 3? And none of our detectors can see it. And what if it has some that are 1? Because it's one frequency, and then it's another frequency, and then it's another frequency, and then it's another, you know, it's not just one frequency. Well, then what happens to your conception of photon and your receivability of photon? Well, it's still this, it's still stuff moving through the universe, so you could still call it energy. So it would still have an impact. And isn't that what gravity appears to be? And again, the mock gravity model does do gravity, so let's not pretend it doesn't. And all you have to do is explain the other incidental side effects of that model, and I have done that. Now, that's a more complex amount of argument that has to be made, but, you know, if, you know, again, I asked to interrogate your physics, and here I am having to defend mine. So, you know, you really don't want to play fair, do you? So, anyway, I'm just saying, obviously you can go from their silly wave theory, okay, to an understanding that this ray length thing matters. it's not irrelevant. And things like polarization aren't irrelevant. And that those things can have something to do with the energy equation and something to do with understanding how energy makes things happen in the universe. That this could all be related to charge, and that this all could be related to how magnets work, and it could be all related to how gravity works. These connections aren't that impossible to understand once you understand that this is a clump, and this is a clump, and this is a clump, and this is a clump. I mean, does it confuse you that much because I say that's a clump of wave, or that's a clump? If we count the waves coming into an ocean shore, do you really think that if one wave hits the shore and 6 waves hit the shore, I'm going to call that the same thing and say that's rational? One wave is the same as 6 waves. I think anybody knows that. No, that wouldn't be quite the same. Anybody should know. But anyway, again, this is the tactic. I don't want to understand your theory. I just want to ridicule it when I'm the one asking for the opportunity to do that. Except I won't just ridicule. I'll point out what the real evidence says, and I'll point out how do you explain when Feynman did this? Why did Feynman say it that way? Why did Lewin say that? Why does, whatever his name is, Leonard Susskind say what he says? Why do they say those things when those things aren't true? Okay. All right. Photons with no frequency. So that's what I mean by photons with no frequency. I mean they are quanta, but they aren't in a form we can see. Just like we can see certain photons, and a frog can see many more photons that we don't see. They're invisible. It's as if they don't exist to us, yet we know the frog saw them, so they do exist. Anyway, all right, so Physics Novice says he considers purely mechanical model with just particles, electrons, protons, and then corpuscles, 4 spits. I don't know why you had to use these kind of rhetoric, but whatever, of 2 kinds. 2 plus 2 plus 2 physics. Yes, there's 2 kinds of force, 2 kinds of matter. Yeah. Just right before the section of gravity, he mentions light as corpuscles with frequency that we can detect because electrons in our eyes are hit at right fashion, kind of like photoelectric effect. Gravity itself is just... is correct, the photoelectric effect, and we'll say the photoelectric effect really just means you hit the electron twice with energy within a certain interval, and then you'll kick the electron out of its position. But if you don't kick it before it goes back to its original position, you don't kick it out. And it perfectly explains what we see, what we observe in the experiments. Perfectly consistent. Gravity itself is just chaotic, random, and dense field, and we actually can detect some of this stuff, cosmic background radiation. This model of gravity is known as Mach or Lesage or photiogravity, and he talks later how the known issues, namely drag, is resolved. Okay, seems like a complete enough statement. Thank you. So he does think light has a frequency. See, so he's instead of listening to the video, right, he's going to do this text crap about something he doesn't know. Okay, if he thinks light is just corpuscles at a frequency, how is that different from photons? Well, that's pretty incredible, right? Yeah. Well, because I don't think it's a wave. That would be the easy answer. But what's your definition of a photon then? Right, so you can't understand a photon that's just one little piece, and we don't see it because our eyes can't see that kind of a photon, or 2 pieces, and we can't see that one. And then there's 3 pieces or 4 pieces, and a frog can see it. But now we need 6 or 9 of them before we see it. That's your own physics. Anyway, so I said, he says, Physics Novice, classical photons would be a few of those corpuscles of one kind. They also have width spread polarization. Corpuscles never interact with themselves though, and there's no interference. What is known as interference is either jamming or putting these corpuscles out of phase and perhaps putting them in phase again. Well, reconstructing, so breaking and reconstructing. Veritasium actually has a video single-slit interference where it uses some device to measure energy, and black spots are also hit by something. More details would be that magnets are filters, and that the dense field, which consists of two kinds of corpuscles, and gives explanation for the fuel of magnets. Yes, well, anyway, but you shouldn't have to text, you shouldn't have to type a description of the video. The guy should be able to watch the damn thing. Pull is absence of corpuscles. Shock between objects, and objects are pushed together from the outside. Atoms are just durable geometrics with this model. Yes. And it makes sense that there's only so much geometry, and then you use up the geometry. You can only make so many hexagons, and then the hexagon fails to have enough energy to support that use of the distance. But yeah, it gets rid of all this orbital nonsense. Magnets are more easily magnetically understood than electrically understood. Two kinds of corpuscles allow the model: photon, proton, electron repulsion, and proton-electron attraction. Okay, so again, but again, typing a text description of a video. Why should this have to happen? Alright, so Raging S says, early in the video he describes the waveform of light as a particle traveling in a literal sinusoidal path through space. Why, describe what you show. Now, if you're going to say, okay, well, what we really think is that there's, okay, the light's going in a direction from point A to point B, okay, and your argument is, in this dimension, okay, there's some kind of thing that's wiggling, and then there's something wiggling in this dimension. Okay, so it's traveling, the magnetic thing, this dimension is vibrating this way, and this whole dimension is vibrating this way. So a whole dimension is vibrating or something, whatever this field thing is doing, right? There's some sort of vibration in a whole dimension, and it's moving this way? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I say that's, where do you have a piece of evidence demonstrating that any of that's happening? Oh, that's right, there's no evidence at all for any of that crap. Okay. Traveling in a literal sinusoidal path through space, and then immediately dismisses this concept as being wrong due to incongruity. Yeah, no, it's wrong because there's a better alternative explanation. That's, so say it both ways. Yes, it's wrong because, frankly, you just say so. There's no evidence of these other dimensions wobbling. Okay, all there is evidence for is point A to point B, and there's stuff at a frequency. There's clumps, as Feynman would say. Again, Feynman didn't do this wooey wave crap. He did the clumps going in a direction crap. So one of your founding fathers of quantum mechanics wasn't so sure about this wobbly wave crap. Amazing. These people are just so dishonest. Anyway. Okay, Baldy Catz. Wow, this is a whole new field of science denial I didn't even know existed. So he doesn't think it's rude to call it science denial. Now, I've denied no experiment. I've denied no facts. I'm denying that your interpretation of the evidence is, first, unsilly, because frankly, I think it's silly on its face. Okay, bent space is a silly answer. Virtual photon is a silly answer. Whatever this is, this double helix moving through space thing is a complex, bizarre description of the most elemental functions in the universe. Stuff hitting at a frequency. Okay. But, calls it science denial. And he doesn't think that's rude. So if I called him a science denier, an evidence raper, he'd find that okay. A truth denier. That's what he is, though. Right? Because look at this whole, the truth is I asked to interrogate your physics, and then you say you're going to interrogate mine without even opening the book. You didn't even read the introduction. You couldn't give a shit about knowing exactly what the fuck I'm saying. You just want to put words in my head and in my mouth and tell me what I believe. Okay, and then make fun of that. I mean, it's a straw man. It's so fucking bullshit as a tactic. You're a shyster as a defender of the truth, okay? You're coming into the courtroom and you're the one behaving like a jackass. Okay. DraftScience. I'm not saying mainstream has... I am saying that mainstream has silly bad evidence, okay, weak evidence, for its bold conclusions. That many of the cited experiments have never been done, which they haven't, and are often inaccurately described, like the Veritasium example, where they claim light plus light equals no light, when that's not really what the experiment shows. Okay, by professionals and instructors. There's also, not redoing the Eddington experiment, kind of a critical flaw in your, redo it and prove it kind of theory. It's a good video. You should try a few minutes. That's all you need to do. Is just play the video, and you could either say, okay, I can argue that first point, or you can't. And then you could say, oh, I'm interested or I'm not interested. But instead, you play this game. Anyway, so I answered his other questions. Quanta with no consistent frequency. That's what the photon. Rays too short to be detected. So I guess he doesn't know what that means. Because he doesn't understand light comes in a ray type form. Okay, that it could be this long, or it could be this long, or it could be this long. No, don't understand that idea. Okay, DraftScience. Just corpuscles with a frequency, and I changed that to at frequency, is not mainstream. It's waves, remember? So he says it's, what's the difference? Corpuscles at a frequency. Well, the difference is you really don't believe in corpuscles. You don't believe in, quantum. You believe in quantum waves, whatever that is, a quantum of a wave. Okay, so then to the science denial accusation, I said, what experiment did I deny? You're getting rude. Fear? Yeah. Anyway, Raging S. The scientific evidence is overwhelming, so more of the same crap. No, it isn't. It's very underwhelming when it's looked at. The Eddington experiment, 1/10 of the stars he was hoping to get. The experiment was 1/10 as good as he hoped it would have been. The evidence, the data. And yet we have New York Times headlines. Already a difficult experiment with perfect results. It would be a difficult experiment. And he got 1/10 of the quality he was hoping for. And you haven't redone the experiment. You haven't proven this whole bent gravity photon thing at all. You have shit for evidence. Overwhelming evidence? You think you have proven it? You think you have a dinosaur fossil? You don't have bone one. Okay? You don't have a toenail of this creature that you say exists. Okay. You don't know what the evidence is. I would argue you don't. Okay? You're the one who's laughing and mocking in ignorance. Okay? You're the one. I ain't related to no Minky. You're just some dumbass creationist. Okay? Defending your little God theory. You're completely unevidenced nonsense. You don't even understand basic concepts like frequency. No, I'm saying you really don't understand that frequency has a length of time that it covers, and that we don't see all the photons. Do you deny it? And what's the difference between the photons I see and the photons the frog sees? What's the difference, asshole? The length of the frequency, right? How many times it frequencies. Isn't that the difference? Shit for brain? Okay, in the first place, your video is garbage. Well, says the creationist in defense of science, the science defender. Can't do better than that. You can't actually explain the garbage. You can't pick up a piece of the garbage and show a single, you can't take a quote from my video and demonstrate how I said something unaccountable nonsense. I made some claim that the CIA done it. You can't do a single bit of that. And all they do is talk trash. These are the big truth defenders that have no frickin' integrity. None. They don't care about the truth. Anyway, and as dumb as any flat earth video. So that's just the comparison. So again, I'll just say your theory, your bent space is as dumb as Jeebus or Mohammed. It's just a frickin' religion. You just made it up as a silly explanation. Oh, there's dark matter. What's the difference between dark matter and angel theory? Oh, that's right, nothing. Yeah. I'm not being rude at all. Yeah, you are. I mean, you're being just incredibly insincere. I mean, clearly I asked to interrogate your physics. And, if you watch the video, I mean, I'm also pointing out that if you're going to interrogate mine, you ought to know what the fuck it is first. I don't mind being interrogated. But you didn't want to do that. Okay? So I would like to interrogate your physics. I'd like to interrogate why you believe what you believe. And if there's any evidence or reasoning behind it that has anything to do with real evidence. Okay, if you can tell me what experimental evidence led you to believe that photons with no frequency. Well, what experimental evidence? Look, this sort of right there. So again, what experimental evidence led you to believe in photons with no frequency? Well, what experimental evidence led you to believe that space is two-dimensional and it's bent? Or it's one-dimensional and it's bent? What experimental evidence is there that there's only one dimension and that space is a something and that the something is bent? I mean, do you have any evidence for that? I mean, this sure as hell isn't evidence of that. I mean, this certainly doesn't show me that space is something and it's bent. No, it's not evidence of that. So where's your evidence? Oh, that's right, you don't have any. Oh, man. Just amazing. Then I'll agree to come on your channel. Well, isn't that special? So you want me to produce something that your side can't produce. You don't have any evidence for, dark matter. You don't have any evidence that there's a virtual photon. So what the hell? I mean, just by reasoning alone, you're doomed when you say virtual photon, right? Because you certainly can't prove that. No, there's a non-existent, non-real thing. I mean, you're already doomed. If you prove yourself right, you're wrong. So, yeah. But what a pile of crap. Okay, so, I mean, it's just a silly thing to say. Yes, the reasoning is you have to use your reasoning and logic skills. And if you use those skills, you can find out why it makes perfectly sense to understand that there are elements of energy that we can't detect with our devices. And that was true for most of human history. There was a bunch of radio waves and infrared radiation and ultraviolet radiation, and we didn't even know it existed because we have no tools to detect it. We had none. All right, so leaves off with physics novice. Frequency is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. Very good. How does he not understand this concept? Yeah, that's a good question. He calls light corpuscles arriving in regular manner. Individual corpuscles are moving in a straight line through, and if you took subsequent ones in a group, they wouldn't necessarily compose sinusoidal shape. Well, I don't even know if that makes sense. But there would be a given distance between them overall with speed. Completely consistent with everything we know about light with photoelectric effect. And the polarization thing, let's not forget that my theory works, explains why the polarizing film adds light when you add the third filter. Need to push electrons in proper manner, but get rid of them from where they are. Well, I don't know exactly what that means. So anyway, very disappointing. So, I'm going to keep trying, but I mean, what am I supposed to do? I mean, what am I supposed to say to Baldy Catz? Oh, thanks for being a fuckhead and playing a stupid game. You want to have a text argument. You want to do physics in stupid one-sentence bullshit back and forth. where you call me a science denier and then I call you short or something. I mean, this is just such bullshit. I mean, I asked you a fucking simple question. I would like to see if one of you people has any balls at all, and are you willing to defend the notions you say are true. They're just notions. They're not real, hard, evidenced truth. You haven't proven your theory of bevolution or, convolution. You haven't proven it. Okay, you haven't shown any fossil evidence or any, evidence from even geometry doesn't work. Because as I can show, the geometry in the radar experiment is exactly the same for the phenomenon of jamming. We don't need to have interfering photons to explain the results of the experiment with things you already understand to be true, that our radio receivers aren't capable of doing certain things. I mean, you're just... it's just despicable. Yeah, that's all you can say. I mean, so we'll just go back to what I said. How much would I have to pay you? I'm willing to pay you to show up. Okay, if you can't play along, and I'll just interrogate what you know. You don't have to know what I know. You don't have to know what my alternative explanation is so much better than your silly one is. I just want to argue the fact that your theory isn't what you claim it to be. It isn't anything proven or demonstrated by volumes of evidence and just overwhelmingly the only conclusion anybody could ever draw. It's none of those things. You're propagandists for a notion, and that's it. And you think you're frickin' got this love of the truth. Well, I'm arguing that obviously you don't. You don't care about the details. You don't care about the scientific method because it's shown all over your physics that you don't care. You need shreds of evidence and you'll leap to a conclusion. You don't wait for it. You don't do anything like Newton. You don't sit there and say, we just don't have enough evidence to draw a conclusion. No, you start speculating about all kinds of crap, and then the speculation turns into your assertions that it's true. It must be, because it's the only way our crap makes any sense, is we have to pile this other piece of crap on it. We need the dark matter to fix the fact that the lensing images make no mathematical sense. I mean, you're just such cheaters. Disappointing. That's all you can say. So, maybe I'll just leave it at that. We'll just move along. That's all I can do. So, I'm going to I guess I'll just keep harassing him until he explains what exactly I did. Besides, ask rationally. Okay, you won't do it for free and you won't do it for money. You won't allow me to interrogate you on what you fucking know, what evidence supports your notions. I want to hear what your religion is. Explain why you believe in your silly story. Okay? That's why I want to know what evidence compels you to believe that photons are bent by gravity. What evidence compels you to believe that photons turn into wave functions and bang into each other in some kind of strange way where they can't figure out where they are and can't go certain locations and blah blah blah. Anyway, this is just hopelessly stupid. I mean, it's just when you think about what they believe, it turns into a probability wave. It's just that's all they have, right? They have math that just does statistics, and that's it. They're just completely eliminated from cause and effect, understanding causes, and they've just generalized all the effects into some generalization that is, whatever, some sort of average. What's the average height of the American male or something, or the average weight, or some kind of thing like that. And they know there's statistical averages, and that's all they're doing. They're just doing averaging math and saying that they've somehow nailed cause and effect, when they're not even coming close to understanding the actual mechanism that creates that curve. So anyway, it's a better way to say that, but it really is just, know what it's like? This is what it's like. so if I do an experiment, there's a, and I say this fell 13 inches, right? There's a margin of error based on what ruler I use to measure it. I could say it's 10% when I'm doing it just by vision. And so I could say there's a 10% margin of error. And it's like they're just doing margin of error math. And so then they're saying, well, when I multiply that times another, how much did it wobble this way? And the error this way is, 2 microns or something. And so they're just multiplying margins of error to say that, because they can't know the exact position of something. So they turned everything into a margin of error, and they're showing us what the math looks like when you're multiplying margins of error. It just isn't. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. They've turned the margin of error part of measurement into the primary part, and they've like totally eliminated the part where he actually says it's 13 inches. That part's irrelevant. All that's relevant is the margin of error now. So all the math is just worried about the margin of error, and the math doesn't have anything to do with why it fell. Okay. Just disappointing. So the other physicist is still on the line, the one I will pay. And, maybe we'll be stuck with that. But this really irritates me because, like I said, this wasn't too onerous a task, really. How much do I have to pay you to endure the same process you impose on retards? You go up to retards and you make fun of them, the flat earthers and the conspiracy nuts. Okay, and I want to try to do the same thing to you, to show that you don't have any more credibility than they have. All right, you're just a bigger gang, and that's all you are. And you don't have any better tactics than they have, but ad homs and name calling. I've denied science somewhere because I haven't interpreted an experiment the same dopey way you did. You say space is bent, and it's somehow telling all these electrons and protons in here, it's somehow compelling them by some magical force that is undefined, some magical bending. They somehow know, oh, the space is bent, I have to go this way. I'm saying, that sounds like a God theory to me. What do you mean? The magical nothing bent jello somehow pushes it, or is it jello pulling it? Which one is it doing? I mean, you're not explaining anything. And I'm explaining how, well, push is like really easy to explain. This flies through nothing, hits this something. This is a something and this is a something. This something flies through nothing, hits this thing, and pushes it. Okay, but pull? Yeah. This reaches its arms out. Oh, no, it can't reach its arms out. This says the magic words, open, come towards me, sesame. And it comes, I don't know. It doesn't really work. Anyway. God, I hate this planet. Fucking. Just humans suck. God, you suck. I mean, as a class, as a group, the suck curve is exponential. I mean, just, the number of sucks, compared to decent folk, is just so out of balance.